Hey everybody, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. So, Baruch Hashem, thank God, we've been getting some responses online, some questions and comments online, and I'd like to try to address some of the questions and comments that are coming up frequently. So one of the first things that I heard, one of the most repeated things that I heard from people is that, we seem to be going over the same thing over and over again in a lot of the classes. And so this is something that we hear a lot in Ashlag Kabbalah, that you're going over the same things over and over again. So I work in my whole life, I worked in film production. I just remembered I need my glasses. Sorry guys, put my glasses on, much better. Okay, so I work on film production my whole life, and people think that it's a very romantic business, but the truth of the matter is that there's a lot of heavy equipment in film production. You're on a set, there's lights and electricity, heavy cameras, cranes, special effects, and so there's actually a lot of very kind of dangerous equipment and equipment that has to be handled properly. And so I started working with, when I started working on the set, I started working with lighting equipment, and so I was, the lowest person on the rung on the ladder, and so I would be unloading the trucks. And there's some things that they tell you, the boss, the person who's managing you, tells you over and over again. You hear it almost every single day. One of those things is to lay it, not to lean it. So you'll hear it nonstop. Lay it down, don't lean it. Because if you take a very heavy stand and you lean it up against the wall or a very heavy case, it can fall over. So they tell you all the time, lay it down, don't lean it. Meaning put the case as low to the ground, flat on the ground. Don't lean things against walls because it can fall over and hit somebody. The other thing they tell you is righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, which means that when you tighten the stand down, it tightens to the right and it loosens to the left. And you hear it nonstop. Everybody's always saying that, because if you have a very heavy piece of equipment on top of a stand and you think you're tightening it and you loosen it, the thing's going to fall. This 300-pound thing is going to fall on somebody's head. So these are things that we say over and over again. So in Ashlag Kabbalah, we're talking about Pnimius Torah, the inside of the Torah. The inside of the Torah is not the executing all of the mitzvot, the physical mitzvot. It's actually talking about what you desire and what you feel. This is what we're working on. And so what we're trying to do in Ashlag Kabbalah is we're trying to reprogram ourselves. We're trying to work on our internal world, on our internal aspect. And that means that we have to try to reprogram ourselves. And so when we repeat things over and over again, we're not interested in whether or not we can memorize it. It's pretty easy to memorize something. So if your wife tells you, I want you to care more about me, you can memorize that sentence. My wife wants me to care more about her. But you can't necessarily easily care more about her. That's a much harder thing to do. So in Ashlag Kabbalah, we're trying to do, it's called Pnimius Torah, the inside of the Torah, and we're trying to move ourselves from convincing ourselves that it's better to be for myself, better to be egoistic, that's the way we were created, and try somehow to convince ourselves that we would be happier, better off if we were altruistic, if we were thinking about other people more. And so that is why there's a lot of repetition. And we shouldn't be mistaken that we think that this is the entire method of Kabbalah. Kabbalah is very complicated. When you start to get into it, if you start to read tests, you see it's many, many volumes. Talmud Eses Sfiros, which is the Bal Ha Sulam, Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag, on the Ari HaKodesh's work. And it's a map of the spiritual worlds, and it can become very, very complicated and very, very hard to even memorize. So we're not talking about something that's simple, but because we're preparing to try to understand how to learn Kabbalah, there's a lot of repetition. Okay, so I made that point. Next, so another person online asked a question, and a lot of people have been asking a similar question. And so Sarah, hello Sarah, thanks so much for contacting me. It was nice speaking to you. So Kara, I'm going to read verbatim what Sarah wrote to me. Is there any point for someone to learn Kabbalah without having a pretty thorough understanding of the revealed Torah? So one thing that I said is that I'm not sure which class it was, maybe 2 classes ago, 3 classes ago, I said that there's a strange paradox that there are people who are not religious, not observant Torah Jews who are learning Kabbalah, and then there are people who are observant Jews who for a lot of reasons are intimidated, or they've been told that they should not necessarily be learning Kabbalah, okay? So this is a very, very big conversation, and there's many, many things we could say about it, and people can have their opinions about it, but let's go through some of the things that maybe the rabbis and the kind of things that we hear in the Orthodox community. I'd like this class to focus, even though we're online and we're going to get people, we're online so anybody can listen to the classes. You don't have to, you might not be Jewish, might not be observant, but I want to try to focus on English speakers who are observant Jews who want to learn Kabbalah or Pnimis Torah. So I want to try to focus on some of the issues that a person who's observant might come across if they're thinking about learning Kabbalah. Okay, so Sarah wants to know is there any value to somebody learning Kabbalah if they don't even know the basics. Okay, so let me start off with a mashal. First of all, I want to make a distinction that between we have a complication here. There's something called Pnimis Torah, which encompasses both Kabbalah and Chassidut. You have Chassidut of Rav Nachman, you have Chassidut of Chabad, and other Chassidut. And then you have Kabbalah straight. In Kabbalah, you have many different rabbis, different streams. You have the Ramak, you have the Bal Ha Sulam, and so I made this point already, but it's kind of silly to have an argument about which one's better, which one is superior to the other one, if a person doesn't know what any of them say. So it's a little bit hard to have a conversation about what the difference between Chabad Chassidut and Ashlag Kabbalah is if a person is not studying both. So I happen to be studying Ashlag Kabbalah and Chabad Chassidut, a little bit of Breslov Chassidut, and even though I'm a beginner, I can start to have a conversation and maybe understand some of the nuances. But let's just see how much, let's try to get into the weeds here a little bit and see if we can understand some of these issues, okay? So we said earlier in an earlier class that the Vilna Gaon talks about a question of ripeness. So if we're going to introduce ideas to somebody who is not ready for those ideas, there could be a boomerang effect and actually end up in a situation that the person moves backwards instead of forward by hearing this. So the example is, we're all adults here. So the example is, a very simple example is that if you have a young girl, you tell her, she says, I want to go with my older sister to this Shabbaton where everybody's trying to date and get married. So what do you tell the 11-year-old girl? You don't want to go, it's going to be icky. Okay, so you give them a very simple, because if you were to explain to them the real reason why you don't want them to go there, you'd be telling them the very thing that you don't want them to be thinking about because they're not ready to be thinking about those things. So if you have a person who is non-observant and they are disconnected, chas v'chalila, from the exterior Torah, okay? Lubavitch Rebbe talks about this. He says that when a person gets kares, when they get excommunicated for doing a very terrible sin, they only get cut off from the outside string. They don't get cut off from the inside string. The inside, you have an inside rope and an outside rope. So Hashem is connecting to us by an outside rope and an inside rope. The outside rope is the halacha, the actual observances that we do in Torah. But the inside rope is the conversation and the limud, the learning about your desires and your feelings. And so the outside rope can get, chas v'shalom, if somebody does a very bad sin, can get cut off. It can be repaired, but it can get cut off. But the inside rope, the Rebbe says, can never get cut off. So we see that people who are non-observant, they tend to, not all of them, but a lot of them tend to gravitate towards conversations about desire and feelings, the interior of the Torah. And so a person like that does not have to necessarily worry about the fact that if they learn the interior of the Torah, they start to talk about their feelings, they start to talk about their desires, it's going to somehow mess up their observance, their outside, the way they approach the Torah from the outside, because they're not doing the outside anyway. Okay, so this is a problem that people have who are observant, and they say, should I introduce? So let's give an example from a marriage. Let's say you have a husband, and he's doing everything right. He's paying the bills, he's respectful, he talks to the kids, he does everything that you want from the husband. He's very busy at work, he comes home. If there's no problem, and you feel like the marriage is working out, telling your husband, I want to sit down and I want to talk about how you feel about me, it might not necessarily be a conversation that will go smoothly, and potentially you might end up in a situation where you start to fight, where you weren't fighting before. So these are some of the kind of nuances about why a person might be worried about learning the Pnimius HaTorah, and it's unique to people who are already observant, right? So that's called, people say, you shouldn't learn Kabbalah because you're going to go off the derech. So these are the kind of concerns that people have. And so I'm talking to people in the religious community. If a person is doing well and they are learning a certain style and they feel that they have their desires are appropriate, meaning they feel good about their relationship with Hashem, and they feel good about Am Yisrael, meaning they feel happy about interacting with other Jewish people, and they feel that their interior world is going well. And people get confused because people often listen to the negativity around them and not the positivity. So I live in the religious community, and I'll tell you that easily 60 to 70% of the people are doing very, very well, meaning they not only do all the observances, but you see that they have a positive, wholesome, internal world, meaning their feelings and their desires about God, the Torah, and other Jewish people and the world in general are very positive. So a person like that might not feel compelled to necessarily start to learn Pnimis Torah. Does anybody have any questions about what I just said? Because it's a little bit complicated because we're talking about a whole bunch of different things. But the point is that if there are people in the religious community who are not doing well. Let's call it 30% of the people who they don't like the community, they are resentful of Hashem, they don't see the purpose in what they're doing things by rote. And so that is a problem that both in Chassidut and in Kabbalah is discussed, saying that if a person is not engaging in the interior, the purpose of the Torah, then they are in need of the Torah. So in Chabad Chassidut, there is a famous mashal. It's a little bit, for the modern ear, it's a little bit quaint, but I'll tell the mashal anyway, the analogy. They talk about a king has a sick son. So the king calls in all the doctors and he says, my son is sick. All the doctors try to diagnose the son for what's wrong with him, and none of the medicines that they give him work. So then the king sends out his agents even further out of the kingdom. He goes to China and he goes to far off places to look for other doctors who have different solutions, who might have a different perspective on what's wrong with his son. So they find a doctor, and the doctor says, I have a solution. I have a cure for something for your son. I know what the condition is. I have the cure, but I'm telling you now, you're not going to like it. There's two problems with the cure. The first problem is that it's very, very strong medicine, and it might kill your son. The medicine might kill your son, right? And the second problem is that, the second thing you might not want to hear is that I have to take the jewel off of your crown, right? I have to take the jewel that's on the top of your crown, and I have to crush up that stone, and I have to make a potion out of it and give it to your son. So the king says, listen, I love my son more than I love this jewel that's in my crown. So I understand what you're saying, and thank you for telling me. But I don't mind if you crush up the stone and destroy the stone in order to save my son. And the second issue is, I see that my son is so sick that he's probably going to die anyway. So I'm willing to take the chance, because if I don't give him the medicine, he's definitely going to die. And if I do give him the medicine, there's a chance that he'll live, or there's a chance that he'll die. So in Europe, whenever this mashal was told, this story was told, this fable was told, it was told to people who don't want to learn Kabbalah, Pnimis Torah, and saying that if a person is so sick already, it's called, Chassidut is called, Pnimis Torah is called strong medicine. It means that it's very powerful, and that you're introducing something that's very, 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 very potent, but that it could save you. And so if a person is really, whether they're part of the Jewish community and they're having tremendous trouble in their life, or they're part of the Jewish community, the religious community, and they also feel that they're really, that their outside observances are getting better and better, perhaps, but the way they feel about things is getting worse and worse. They're getting more anger, resentment, whatever those feelings are. So then a person is already sick, they might be willing to try something, even if there is a danger, And like I said in another class, the dangers that we faced in the past are much less apparent, much less present than they are in today's generation. Today's generation, a lot of the reasons why people were scared of learning Pnimius Torah don't really apply anymore. For example, in the Ariya Kodesh's time, they were worried about, since we're in spirituality, we're talking about words and concepts that have to do with coupling, meaning that there is the same way on the physical level, we have physical intimacy, we have a man and woman coming together sexually. In the spiritual world, there's not in a sexual way, but in a spiritual way, there are these couplings and things that are moving together and coming together and take two things and move them and they become one thing. And so, because of that, in the Ariya Kodesh's time, the people didn't have TVs, they didn't have radios, they didn't have magazines, and so for them to hear about these even to hear this language could possibly make them get the wrong idea and enter into bad behavior based on the ideas that they're hearing. And in fact, if you go back to Europe, you had certain Kabbalistic movements, the Frankists and the Shapsai Tzvi, who did in fact think that because there are discussions of these zivugim, couplings, in the spiritual world, that they somehow got the idea that they should be breaking halacha and doing things in the physical world. And this is where a lot of this trepidation comes in the religious community about entering into these things. That's why Chabad Hasidut came along, the Baal Shem Tov came along, and he said, I'm going to teach people about Kabbalah, but I'm going to do it through a lens of halacha, through the revealed Torah. So that's why a lot of people feel that learning Hasidut is maybe a better option for people who are observant, who have something to lose, meaning they're already behaving properly, and maybe they have to work on their internal worlds, and maybe Hasidut could perhaps avoid some of these problems. Now, I don't want to necessarily go into a deep conversation about the differences between Ashlag Kabbalah and Chabad Hasidut, because first we have to understand what these two things are and learn a little bit in order to see that there's a difference. And so let's leave it there. I hope that was an answer that people can digest, and let's move on. So I'm just looking at my notes, people. Give me a second if you could. Okay, so I just said that we're not going to try to figure it out, and now maybe I'll just try to speak a little bit about it because I'm looking at my notes. So, the Bal Ha Sulam came and said in his Hakdamot, which are the introductory articles. So everything that we've been covering so far is the introductory articles to the Bal Ha Sulam. We have not started to actually learn this about the Spheros by name and starting to do the actual Kabbalistic readings and all this stuff. We haven't started that. We're doing the introduction. And so one of the things that Bal Ha Sulam, one of the points made, is that he is teaching, his books that he wrote are revealing the Malchut of every single level. The Malchut is the lowest level. It's also a very high level, but it's the lowest level. In each Sphera has 10 levels, and each one of the lowest levels in each one of these spiritual worlds is called Malchut. There's reasons for that, why they use the same word in each level, but let's leave that for now. The point is that the Bal Ha Sulam says, I am leaving out 9 of the levels of each of the levels. So people who are thinking, I want to learn about, magical spells that are going to let me fly, or that this is going to give me some kind of power that is going to let me make more money than everybody else. These are, first of all, I don't know if that is covered in any of the levels, because I've never learned any of the other levels, because the Bal Ha Sulam doesn't teach any of the other levels. So it's a moot point to try to figure out what it is that are in those levels, because that's not what the Bal Ha Sulam is teaching. The Bal Ha Sulam is teaching about how do we exit our ego so that we can become more altruistic, so that we can have adhesion with the Creator. The Bal Ha Sulam explains that the reason why the people in this world do not feel God, do not feel the presence of God. God hid himself. The word Olam is called concealment. So God made a system whereby he would step away from the world in our perceptions. God is actually everything in the world, and God is controlling every single minutia of every single thing that's happening, including your thoughts and your feelings. But the point is that God created a place where we could feel independent and we can feel that we exist. And so now we are trying to undo what God did. So we are trying to find God. God hid himself from us, and we're playing a game where we're trying to reveal him. So the Bal Ha Sulam explains that the reason why we can't feel Hashem, see Hashem, communicate with Hashem is because we are in the reception. We are in our identity is built on wanting to receive things, and God is a giver. And so by coming out of our egos and slowly but surely becoming more and more altruistic, that is the way that we will come to the Veikut, adhesion, similarity of form with the Creator, and that is how we will change the world and be able to come into balance with each other and be able to love each other and be able to unify and create a world where God's presence is revealed. Okay? So, since people who are non-observant, who don't have an experience with Torah Judaism, with observant Judaism, they don't really have a lot of understanding about what Kabbalah is to begin with. But in the religious community, there's a lot of people who they have over the generations think that Kabbalah means somehow kind of magic, that you're going to go to a rabbi and he is going to magically give you some kind of potion or some kind of thing written down, and he's going to then, some magic trick is going to occur and you are going to stay exactly the way you are, but something's going to change in your life. So the Bal Ha Sulam comes and says, those people who are doing that thing, they're doing something, but it's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to teach you a system that does not have to do with those type of things. There's no red strings in Ashlag Kabbalah. There's no holy water. There's nothing that you're going to say that's going to magically make you levitate or is going to make you richer. What we're learning about is the Malchut, how do we, in every level that we're going to climb this ladder, how do we become more and more altruistic? How do we become more similar to Hashem? Thereby, being able to sense Hashem, we get a sixth sense, a new way of perceiving reality that is altruistic, which allows us to come into balance with all of our neighbors and with all of nature and all of humanity, and then perceive divinity. So all the people who are in the world who are very attracted to Kabbalah, the reason why they're attracted to Kabbalah is because they have some kind of sense that Kabbalah is a solution to their problems. And so if a person is not an observant Jew, they're worried that they're fighting. There's a lot of fighting in the world. There's wars all over the place. There's a war in Ukraine with people who are threatening to use nuclear weapons. There's people who are migrating from country to country, and they're not happy, and they're causing riots. There's bio warfare, all of these problems. There's global warming, and they don't see a solution. So the people who are not observant, who are coming to Kabbalah, they're coming for a very, very good reason, because they sense that perhaps in Kabbalah there is a solution to the world's problems. What's the problem? We're all egoistic. We're being squeezed together. We're coming into contact with each other, and that's causing us to fight because we are different. We have different ideas about how to have a good society. We have different ideas about what we want, and we also have different abilities. Some guy in Westchester is a brilliant guy, and he became a surgeon, and now he makes $1 million a year, and somebody who is a milkman in Brooklyn is somehow upset that somehow the resources are not being allocated properly. People are not sharing with him. People are not being fair to him. People are being clever with resources, and these are all the problems of the world. And so the Ashlag Kabbalah is, in fact, a very, very, perhaps in Ashlag we would say it's the only way for people to become into balance with each other, is to do the method of Kabbalah. So then we had a discussion. We said, so you mean if we don't learn Kabbalah, then we're not doing anything good in the world, and we're not fixing the world if we're just working in the Peace Corps, or we're just like, being nice to people, and we go to our church and we have a soup kitchen. Are we not doing anything? If you're doing things that are in line with the principles of Kabbalah, then you are. If you're doing things that are contrary to the method, in other words, let's say you're saying, I'm going to make a lot of money, and I'm going to then build a computer program that's going to solve the problems of the world. If you're doing that, then you're disagreeing with what it says in the Torah and what it says in Kabbalah. It says that's not going to help you. Some people invented the internet, they created the internet, they built the internet, and they said this is going to save the world. Well, we see what happened. Half of the things on the internet are saving the world, and half of the things are destroying the world. So this is not an effective way to fix the world. The effective way to fix the world is to fix the ego. So if we understand that it's possible to fix your ego, to come outside of your ego, to come into balance with your ego, if we understand that, then we're moving in the right direction, and that's what Ashlag Kabbalah is coming to teach you. So if people are observant already, they have a unique hurdle, because they are already trying to do some of those things, but some of the people are not getting the message from doing the revealed Torah, and they're not understanding what the purpose of what the root of all of these observances are. So if you're putting on tefillin, and you're keeping kosher, and you're keeping Shabbat, and there's somehow a disconnect between the exterior parts of what you're doing and how that is supposed to change your desires, then studying Panemius Torah is perhaps it's a necessity, because if you're getting more and more frustrated, and you're becoming perhaps more, you're fighting with people more, and you're becoming more and more rigid in your observances, that itself is a problem. So I hope that's clear. That was something that it's a review in some parts, but I think we also hit on some nuances, okay? Okay, so we had a question in class. One of the students here asked a very good question, said, do you mean everybody is going to have to learn Kabbalah? The entire world is going to have to learn Kabbalah in order to save the world? And so Rabbi Ginsburg, I don't know if anybody knows who Rabbi Ginsburg is, but Rabbi Ginsburg is a brilliant mathematician. He's a very big gadol. Gadol means a great person, meaning he's achieved a very high level of holiness, spirituality, devekut, which means adhesion with the Creator. If you meet him, you see, here's a person who's very pious, very brilliant, very learned, very loving person, and you're immediately impressed by him. He has many, many books. He happens to be a Chabad Chassid who learns and teaches Kabbalah. So this is a nuance. In Chabad Chassidus, we're told to learn Chabad Chassidus and to perhaps not learn directly from the Zohar, and to learn Kabbalah directly. And yet we see that if you learn Tanya, you see that the Alter Rebbe is in fact quoting Zohar all the time. And if you see, and here you have one of the biggest rabbis in Chabad Chassidus who is teaching Kabbalah. He's not teaching Chassidus, he's teaching actual Kabbalah. And so we see that it's a nuanced position. In other words, some people maybe should not be learning Kabbalah, and some people should. So Rabbi Ginsburg has a very unique way of explaining, in this book he wrote that's called Kabbalah for the Nations, where he explains the relationship between the Jewish people, the work the Jewish people are doing, the task that the Jewish people have undertaken, and how it relates to the nations of the world, okay? So in this work, he gives an analogy in this book where he says that the way that spirituality is going to work is like a tube. So in the Bal Ha Sulam, we talk about a ladder. Can you let me know when we reach an hour or 45 minutes? Okay, because I don't know what time. Okay, thank you. So,
when did you start?
I don't know. Let's call it a half an hour ago. I don't know. Okay, okay. Sorry. Okay. So Rabbi Ginsburg. So the analogy that the Bal Ha Sulam gives is the analogy. Thank you. The analogy that the Bal Ha Sulam gives is of a ladder. That the way that we reach God is the way we travel through the spheros, which are levels of consciousness, from one degree to the next degree of being unified with everybody else and being connected to everybody else and wanting to please everybody else and less worried about our own existence and ourselves and getting our pleasure through seeing other people thrive, right? These are the levels that we're talking about, levels of consciousness. We're not talking about any kind of space or time, God forbid, okay? So Rabbi Ginsburg uses the analogy, instead of using a ladder, he talks about a pipe. So why does he talk about a pipe? Because he says that you have, let's take the example of the Bible, of the Torah. You have Adam, then you have Noach, then you have Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Yosef, the 12 tribes. Then you have King David, right? These are people who come to the show throughout history who keep doing the same work, taking another step forward, meaning they bring the Torah, this method, to more and more people, explaining it in a more and more revealed way to more and more people who are of lower and lower abilities. That's exactly what they're doing. So each one of these great, why do we need all these teachers? Why can't we just have Abraham? Why can't we just have Moses? Because each generation, more and more people come to this desire, to wanting to achieve unity, to wanting to achieve balance, and those people need to be spoken to in a certain way. And so each generation has their teachers who come. So what Rabbi Ginsburg says, which is really brilliant, is he says, so first person came into this tube was Adam, and then Abraham, and then Isaac, and then Jacob, right? And then, and all these people are coming into the tube. So as more and more people come into this tube, it pushes the people who came in first further up the tube. Okay, and so two things you see. You see that the people, so we say in Torah Judaism, the people who came from us are greater than we are. We stand on the shoulders of the people who came before us, meaning we are never going to reach the status, the abilities of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Yosef. These people are much, much higher than us. They have much higher potential. But the second thing we could say is that we are completely and utterly connected to them, because we're in a pipe, and everybody is directly beneath the person who's directly above them. And so what happens is there's a paradox. That's why we spoke about the Jewish star. The Jewish star has one triangle going up and one triangle going down. So on the one hand, we are coming into this pipe, and we're lower than the people in front of us, but there's people who are going to want to come into the pipe after us. And what they're going to do is, as they come in, they're going to push us higher and higher and higher. So we see that we have a paradoxical relationship. There is a paradoxical relationship in Kabbalah. And so to answer the question is, everybody does not have to open up the Zohar. In the future, according to the people who have explained it to me, and I think that I'm accurately saying according to the Bal Ha Sulam and according to Chabad Hasidus, not everybody is going to end up learning the Zohar. Not everybody is going to end up keeping Shabbat in a revealed way. Some people, the Jewish people, will be doing the exterior of the Torah, meaning they'll be keeping Shabbos according to halacha. But other people, the people who will attach themselves to the Jewish nation, to the people who study Kabbalah, to the converts, and to the people who join the Jewish nation, meaning the nation that's using this method to fix the world, will have the meaning of Shabbos. They will have the meaning of Mashiach. They will have the meaning of Tefillin. They will be connecting to the inner aspect of all of these things, because the exterior Torah and the interior Torah are connected. One of them is the exterior manifestation of the internal desire and the idea. Is that making sense? It might be very, very complicated what I'm saying. We are all going to end up unified, and we're going to unify around these principles and these ideas. So everybody will accept that we should be nice to each other. That is how we are all going to be connected to Kabbalah and the method of Torah and mitzvos. So there will be people at the very end. So we talk about in Judaism, Torah Judaism is for everybody. It's for the greatest rabbi, and it's for the shoemaker. And both of these people connect to the same system at their level. And so that's something else that in the modern world, we discussed this already, that some people have a very hard time appreciating that we can be connected, we can be unified, we can be in love with each other and still have one person who is different than the other person and one person who is better at, I could be connected to somebody who's better at cooking than I am. And if they're sharing the food that they make with me, I'm okay with the fact that they are better at cooking with me. And then when it comes my time to shine, let's say I'm better at carpentry. So when it's my time when they say we need a carpenter, I will step in and I will be there and I'll be better than the guy who's a better cook. So people don't yet see necessarily in the modern world that it's okay for somebody to be better than you at something. You can meet a rabbi. It's very interesting. If you come to, let's say you go to shul every single day and you see the rabbi, you have a relationship with the rabbi that the rabbi is so much smarter and so much more knowledgeable than you. But then let's say all of a sudden you meet the rabbi at the park and you realize the rabbi is really not good at playing tennis or wherever you meet him. So in some ways you're better than the rabbi. If he doesn't play tennis, you could teach him how to play tennis or any other skill, right? So we all have the Rebbe says everybody has their quality, everybody has their unique special ability that makes them the best at that moment. And so these are things that we have to not only understand about how to unify, but this is something that we have to actually internalize and see that it's true. And so the only time that we're able to see that it's true is when we have a reciprocal relationship. In other words, if somebody is better than me at finance and he's using his ability to be better than me to buy up everything and to make me have to work 10 times harder, and I don't get my necessities met, and this guy has a sailboat in Nantucket, then I'm going to resent him. But if he's better at finance and he's using his abilities to, certainly he has a very beautiful, a very high lifestyle, and he works very hard, and he has a lot of things that are very beautiful, but he's also very careful to make sure that whatever he's doing is being done in the service of the community and the collective, right? So in Torah Judaism, we talk about prat and klal. We talk about the individual and the collective. We talk about how to put these two things together. Sometimes we have, so in halacha, we talk about rishus harabim and rishus, what's the other one? We talk about the personal space and the public space, okay, in English. So sometimes we have to worry about ourselves, and sometimes we have to worry about everybody. So if we're worried about making enough money to get our rent paid, we have to worry about ourselves. And if we're talking about how do I achieve unity and camaraderie and balance with nature, then we have to have a different standard. So these two things are happening at once. This is also something that I think is very difficult for modern people sometimes to understand, is that the model of Torah and mitzvos is a model where we have two paradoxical qualities. A man and a woman come together, and 2 weeks out of the month they are separated while the woman is on her menstrual cycle. While she's having on her period, the men and the women separate, and when that period is over, the men and women, the husband and wife, come back together. So you see that in order to unify, we have two paradoxical two paradoxical, the rabbi who just walked in from the next class. So we have two contradictory qualities that we work on at the same time. In Torah Judaism, we work on separating from each other, and we work on coming together. So it's a very important way of thinking about things, is that if we want to get along with everybody in nature, we have to spend some time by ourselves and become good individuals and take care of our individual necessity, and then we can come together and find union with other people, with nature and everybody else. We need both of these things. We don't want to erase one, and we don't want to have an imbalance between these two forces. We want to feel very, very good about ourselves, and then we want to be able to come together with other people. Both of those things in Torah Judaism, they're both part of the same methodology, even though there's a tension between them. So I'll give you a very good example from, most people in the modern world, they go to the gym a lot, okay? People like to go to the gym, okay? We understand that there's two things that we're working on. There's actually more, there's maybe 3 or 4, but let's just say we have flexibility, we're working on flexibility, and then we're working on strength. Ironically, when we work on strength, sometimes you work on your muscles, it makes you less flexible. And when you work on your flexibility, sometimes you become less strong. So you see that even though we're working on total health, we're working on being a balanced, healthy person, sometimes we're working on flexibility, and sometimes we're working on strength. If a person is going to be lifting heavy weights and unloading trucks, they might focus more. They say, I'm going to give up some of my flexibility in order that I get stronger. Some people who are they work in an office and they have to have a tremendous amount of stamina, they might say to themselves, I'm going to focus on stamina, meaning I'm going to do more running, and I'm going to work on flexibility so that my back, I can bend down and pick things up in the office. But I'm not going to work so much on strength training because I myself I know what my personal space, my personal objectives are, my personal balance. So that's another very important thing that we can realize in Torah Judaism, in the method of Kabbalah, that we're trying to find our personal balance so that we can come into balance with everybody else. Some person might care more about being flexible. Some person might care more about having stamina. Somebody might care more about having strength. There's a way that these different people can come into balance with each other, and that is literally the method of Torah and mitzvos. That's the outside of the Torah, and the inside corresponding part, which is called Panimisa Torah, which includes Chassidut and Kabbalah, and a person needs to find out which one of those tracks they feel most comfortable studying. That is the desires and the intention and the feelings that go along with doing the exterior parts of the Torah. I hope that's clear. Okay, that's it. I think this is a good place to stop. Thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate it. And we will return to these concepts again and again and hopefully clarify them more. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.